Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's press conference following the Bulldogs' 27-6 loss at South Florida on Saturday. The Bulldogs will travel to face number one Clemson Saturday at 4 o'clock. The game can be seen live on the ACC network. A couple of notes leading into that game. Saturday's game will mark the third time since 2014 that the Bulldogs will be playing the number one team in the country. They also faced number one Alabama in 2018 and number one Florida State in 2014. Also of note, quarterback Brandon Rainey is just 11 yards shy of becoming the 16th player to reach the 2,000-yard rushing mark here at the Citadel. Now to talk about his Bulldogs, here's head coach Brent Thompson.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Zoom call today. I'll talk a little bit about the South Florida game and move on to the Clemson game here shortly. Obviously not the result that we would have liked. I would have liked to have made it a little bit more of a competitive football game. I thought we did have some highlights from the game, though. I thought the defense played extremely well. We gave up about 214 yards on 8 plays. And other than that, I thought we played extremely well on defense. We had some individual performances that were pretty good by Willie Eubanks, Sean Thomas Faulkner, and Marquise Blunt. So 3 guys that I was very proud of their effort. Unfortunately, we didn't get any turnovers. We didn't create any short fields. And on the offensive side, we didn't do enough to be able to put the ball in the end zone. We had to kick 2 field goals and attempt 3, which I was proud of our freshman kicker for coming in and stepping up and hitting his first 2. Unfortunately, he did miss 1 on the day. Offensively, a couple things that killed us. We had 2 really big drive killers for us. One was in the red zone. We had 2 personal foul penalties that really took us out of field goal range on one of them and really just killed us on another drive. So between that and a fumble, those are things that you can't have in FBS games and expect to be close or have a chance to win it at the end, which is what our expectations are. So on the special team side, we had the one major mistake. Unfortunately, we punted it to the other team in the end zone. Critical error. We were trying to roll out and kick a rugby kick. We really compounded 2 errors. We had a delay of game penalty that resulted in pushing us back even further into our end zone, and then of course we dropped the snap and kicked it right to the other team. So unfortunately, that was kind of the way that the game went that night. Looking forward to this week's game. We have an opportunity to play the number one team in the country again, as John said, for the 3rd time since 2014. We're excited about that opportunity. We're excited to still be playing football. Clemson is as advertised. We watched them against a good Wake Forest team. We're going to do our best to be able to compete on their level for as long as we possibly can and do everything that we can to be able to make it a football game for them and enjoy ourselves while we're up there. So I think it's going to be a great atmosphere for us to be able to play. We've got a lot of upstate guys on the roster, and we're looking forward to Saturday afternoon. Questions? I'm good. Give us a second. We're going to adjust the volume here. Can you hear it all right?
Yeah.
All right, try to go ahead. What does it mean? Well, first of all, it means a lot. As I told our players, is we have an opportunity to play the number one team in the nation, which is something that we do look forward to, something that we are pretty much used to since I've arrived here in 2014. It's great that we have them in our state, being that our guys will be excited for that game, and we've got a lot of Clemson/Citadel fans, so it's good for all those guys to be able to enjoy us all on the same field at one time. So it means a lot. It means a lot to us, and we do appreciate Clemson putting us on the schedule every couple of years, I should say. Yeah, the Alabama game, 10-10 at the halftime, that was certainly a little bit unexpected. We had a lot of things that went our way, especially in the first half. There were a lot of adjustments being made both offensively and defensively. We did a good job on special teams of trying to eliminate their returners, trying to limit what they do. So I thought that was very important. The number one thing that I thought we did was we approached it as a team and how we were going to shrink the game, how we were going to make them try to kick the ball back to us, punt it back to us. The defense did a good job of getting a couple of stops on a very, very powerful offensive team. So I want to credit both the defense as well as the special teams. But really, on the offensive side, we really just tried to play keep away as much as we could. I thought we played hard. From what I do remember about that game, we played extremely hard. We had guys that were just stepped up all over the place. Brandon had a really nice day. I think he had something like 30 carries that day. We attempted 1 or 2 passes. And that was just kind of a sign of the way. We didn't really feel like we got behind the sticks very often. And if we could do that, we can hang in there for as long as we possibly can. We'll have pretty good days like that. And unfortunately, we had one critical error, turned the ball over for a touchdown in that game that kind of spun it out of control for us. But we also had an opportunity to go up on the number 1 team in the country and jumped off sides and missed a field goal. So certainly a memorable day for all of us, a lot of the Citadel fans out there, something that I still hear to this day, still get excited about, and that's why you look forward to playing these games. Probably the number 1 FBS team. It means quite that much more to our players than anything else. I think everything's maxed out here.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you. Yep.
Okay. This is Mike McKenna with the state newspaper.
Hey, Mike, thank you for joining us.
Yeah. So I was curious, you mentioned earlier being glad that you're even playing football. I mean, what was the process like of putting this schedule together, and how much does, having Clemson lined up on the schedule, does that maybe help build some momentum toward playing this fall, or just what was it like just putting this slate together?
Well, first of all, it was a little nerve-wracking for both the players and us. I knew what was going on behind the scenes, but we really couldn't put all the information out there, especially now. You've got access to a lot of different information out there. We didn't want the wrong information getting out. So I got to hand it to both, really, all of our administration, from General Walters to Mike Capascio to Jeff Von Dolan, who did a lot of the nuts and bolts operation of it. And then we've got to hand it to Kevin Yeager and Andy Clausen. Those guys arrange all of the travel for us. So there's so many unknowns, and going from not having anybody on the schedule to having a pretty substantial 4-game schedule that we're excited about. It was such an up and down roller coaster at the time. Though, as far as the Clemson game goes in particular, we knew that Clemson was going to have one opening on it. We knew that one was probably going to go to South Carolina, being that it was the Palmetto Bowl there. When the SEC came out with the 10-game conference-only schedule, then it came down to us and Akron. And eventually we were the last man standing when Akron folded up with the MAC. So that was exciting. So we were just happy to have a 1 game on the schedule, one that was fairly close, and one that was actually scheduled and being able to be played. So all those things went through in about a 2 or 3 week span. A little bit nerve-wracking, but exciting, and we're just happy the way that it ended.
Brent,
Go ahead, Scott.
Brent, you look at Trevor Lawrence on tape. You've seen a lot of big-time quarterbacks before. Have you ever seen somebody like Lawrence? And is there any way to kind of stop him from running that offense the way he does?
No. He's very good at it. One of the strongest arms. And then you watch the backup come in and does exactly the same thing, equally as powerful. He's got just as good of an arm as Trevor as well. So either one of those two guys are very, very dangerous. Trevor can still run it. He can throw the ball from the hash to the sideline, 50 yards down the field. That's how strong of an arm he's got. He's just a phenomenal player, and I can understand what all the excitement is when you watch him play out there, because I sit there and all and watch him as an offensive guy going, wow, I didn't know that could be done, especially a guy that's just a few years removed from the high school, and he's been able to do it for the last 3 years.
Hey, Coach, Justin Big with Live 5 here. You run that unique option offense, and Brent Venables is used to seeing that with those old Georgia Tech teams. How do you kind of outwit and outsmart someone who has some familiarity with their kind of offense?
Yeah, that's challenging. Is when they had Georgia Tech in the league doing it, and it was helpful for us. We were able to see it, but that only helps you. That only gets you so far. It'll help you through the game planning. It doesn't negate the fact that they are big, strong, fast, can run. They know what they're doing. He's got a good plan put together. He's obviously studied the offense. If you watch him from 2014 until his last year playing Tech in 2018, is the evolution of that defense, as you could see year by year, where you don't typically get those in a out of conference game when you're not used to a defensive coordinator seeing this. There is not an evolutionary process that takes place. Just like last week, we had no idea what we were going to get from South Florida. We had to kind of go into the game a little bit blind with it and have a few things, a few ideas and a few concepts in there, but that's a completely different end of the spectrum from a guy that's been a defensive coordinator for many years and has been going against the option for many years. It presents a lot of a challenge for us, and we felt that challenge a little bit in 2017 and the last time that we played.
Coach Craig Haley, when you're in a game like this and you're playing FBS opponents, what does it take for a team, an FCS team, to settle into the game?
Well, usually the number one concern is the environment and being too big for the environment. And in Alabama game, I never got the sense that the environment was too big for us. The Clemson game, we were a little bit in awe, being that we have a lot of guys from that area. If you watch them come out of the tunnel and run down there, it takes a little bit more time to settle into the game. Sometimes that goes with experience. We've had... The good thing is on this roster, we've probably had at least a half of our guys that have played or was at the Alabama game. So they've got a pretty good idea of what it takes to kind of settle into this. It'll take usually about a series or two on the offensive side. If you can get off the field within the first two series on the defensive side and force them to punt, I would say that you've settled in. Usually right after the first kickoff on the special teams, you kind of get a sense for what the speed is out there, and where the special teams can get you is they always have a little bit more speed and space than you. So you got to try to shrink the field as best you possibly can.
Forgive me if you've answered this previously, but if you play the 4 non-conference games here in the fall, and the SoCon schedule is generally 8, and you can't play 8 in the spring, how would that work if you can only play 7 and there's an 8-game league schedule?
Well, I would suggest that we do one of two things: is we either apply for a waiver from the NCAA to get 12. Teams have done that in a normal year. They've allowed 12 games, so I don't think that's beyond the realm of expectation. Maybe we would have to forfeit 1 game and go down to 11 games. I would be certainly up for that. But I will tell you this, is that the Southern Conference put out there that we can play 4 games, and that's what we decided to do. I was all for doing that. I want to give every single opportunity for our guys to play in case there is not a spring option available to us. The other thing that we always got to consider in the spring is if you do try to play 8, are you going to try to play 19, 20, 21 games, depending on your playoffs in one calendar year? That could be challenging for our players as well, and that could be challenging for the NCAA. So we got to consider what's going on right now, and that we're playing football, and we've got an opportunity to play, and we put together a schedule based upon what was given to us by the league with a 4-game schedule, and I'm perfectly happy with that, and I'm excited that we were able to get those games and look forward to playing every single one of those. And if it comes to fruition in the spring, we'll deal with it then. But I firmly believe that the NCAA would give us permission to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Brett, how big is a game like this for guys like Willie Eubanks and Riley Webb, guys who have legitimate NFL expectations? Not only about to only have 4 games to kind of show tape, if you will, from this year, but to see what they can do against the cream of the crop.
Well, we feel it's important, and as I said last week, I spoke to Willie about it, and I thought Willie showed up last week. He had a very, very good game. He knows against an FBS opponent what it's like to play at that level. I mean, the talent level out there at South Florida was not lacking. I think they've got pretty good talent. Once again, this week will be even more. ETN is a phenomenal running back in there. Trevor's a phenomenal quarterback in there. They've got a great offensive line, so that's going to be another test and challenge for Willie to see what it's like to play at that level and hopefully give everybody an opportunity to see what he can do, possibly as a projection on the NFL level. So I think that's huge for him. And then, Raleigh had two of our explosive plays last week. He had 50 yards on 2 carries on 2 reverses, and you watch him and he is taking the angle away from a very quick and fast South Florida team. When you watch the replay, as I was very surprised at how fast he really was on a fairly wet turf going against a really, really fast bunch of guys.
Hey, Coach, this is Tom in Spartanburg. I'm wondering how you guys came together and stayed together after the SoCon season was canceled and guys are opting out. What happened with the remaining guys?
Well, it certainly is a challenge, right? You've got a splintered group of guys, and the number one thing that I told our guys was, this is a personal decision that everybody's got to make individually. I am here to be able to field a football team and field a competitive football team. If there's a decision to be made that somebody's going to opt out, we have to respect that decision. We have to come together as a unit with those guys that are left over and play football. We don't want to forget about those other guys that have opted out. They're still a part of our team. We will welcome them back when they feel it is necessary for them to come back. But it's just one thing that we've all got to be open-minded with about this is not everybody has the same feelings and perceptions as to what's going on. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. As I said, I'm here to just be able to field a team and excited to be here. And I want to be here for those guys that are willing to play out there.
You mentioned a lot of guys from the upstate. Do you know how tickets will be handled? With their families be able to get in? Do you know anything about that?
So, the last discussion that we did have regarding tickets was our travel party will be given 2 tickets, and that'll cover their mom and their dad. We will not be transferring tickets, though. Typically, we would be transferring tickets. We'll just have just 2 tickets per player on the travel roster.
Have you gotten to, and obviously he's opted out, so I don't know if you got to talk to him at all, but have you talked to Dante Smith at all during this whole pandemic or leading up to this game? He was obviously the guy who shined against Alabama 2 years ago. Any joking with him, hey, we'd love to have you against Clemson, or we got to talk to him at all during this time that he's opted out?
No, I'll take you through the timeline a little bit with Dante. When we returned to school and we were beginning to start school, Dante and I sat down and we had a good long discussion about where he was and about how he was feeling, and how we were going to move forward with it, and making sure that he was good to go. My number one concern is he will graduate in December. I want to make sure that he is on track to graduate and that he is doing everything he possibly can. That's the whole reason why he came here. And I don't think it would be fair to him to say anything like that to him, because he's made that decision and it was an important one. I know it was a very difficult one for him, but I think that I respected the decision. And as I said before, we just got to move on and respect everybody's decision in these tough times.
Hey, Brandon, it's Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
According to the participation chart, you played 42 in South Florida. Does that sound right? And is that a low number?
Yeah, typically we will play between 42 and 45. We traveled 60. We typically don't play as many offensive linemen. We rotated a couple more offensive linemen in there. Prince Howard was in and out of the lineup a little bit. Ben Brockington was in and out of the lineup on the offensive line a little bit. We had to play a couple of B-backs, a couple of A-backs in there. And then on the defensive side, we have all of our personnel packages in there. So 42 is somewhere in there between 42 and 45 is about right. With a travel roster of about 60, I think that's fairly accurate in there.
Okay. How do you help, you have such a young backfield behind Brandon. How do you help him grow up quickly this week?
Well, and they're going to have to. It was good to get it out of the way a little bit last week, and unfortunately, some of our critical errors came out of that end. One of the fumbles and at the B-back spot right there, and then we just missed a couple of blocks on the perimeter that I thought we could make. It's more speed of the game. You can't simulate speed of the game, and South Florida was extremely athletic. Clemson will be big and extremely athletic as well. So we're going to have to settle down a little bit, and hopefully we learned a lot from just having one game of experience underneath our belt. And we've got to do things that are going to help us out, and maybe we need to game plan a little bit more, keep it in more small, confined spaces.
I think Sonny Carlay played mostly on special teams. Is he going to work more into the offensive line rotation?
Yeah, we hope so. Somebody's really was in and out of the starting lineup over the course of the camp, just due to some injuries and things like that. The good thing about somebody is he got a lot of the camp work in there, fairly new to the offense. But as I always said, there's one thing about somebody that I like, and he's long, and I think he can stretch out a little bit. He can do some things that some of the shorter offensive tackles don't have the luxury of. So I do think somebody's got a spot in our offense. We're going to try to rotate him in a little bit here moving forward, where I think that he can get a lot of good game work.
Matt Campbell's been such a great player for you guys during his career. He's really made a difference in a lot of games. Do you try to help him this week? Does he need help? Is he confidence shaking at all? What's your approach with Matt?
Well, you have to look at it. That unfortunate incident, as I want to call it right there, with the 0-yard kick return there, punt return for a touchdown. Really, after that, he settled in just fine, and he had a 39-yard average or something. So really, I think he settled just fine. It probably does phase him, but it certainly didn't seem like it. It didn't affect his performance. I thought he kicked the ball extremely well after that. Really, when it came down to it, just took his eye off the snap, was trying to rugby out of there a little bit too quickly, compounded the error a little bit, may have tried to take the safety. He thought he had a window to be able to kick it. If he didn't, slide right underneath it like my sand wedge or something like that, he would have probably gotten something on it and been able to get some yards out of there.
And Colby ended up winning the starting kicking job and then did good in the game. Talk about his preseason practice and how he performed on Saturday.
Yeah, well, Colby was up and down. I thought I had my concerns. He settled in game week and won the starting job from Ben. Ben was probably a little bit ahead early on in camp. Colby's got a strong leg. I wasn't concerned with the length of the two field goals. I was a little bit more concerned with the accuracy end of things. But as it proved, he barely missed the one and hit two of the longer ones that that we were given that day. So I was extremely proud of him. I went up to him yesterday and told him how proud I was and what a great job I thought he did for a freshman kicker in that environment, coming out and getting the job done.
I know coaches love uniform questions. There's no C on the helmet this year. What was that decision? Were you involved? Why did they go that way?
This is one of those questions. It's we need to put things into perspective a little bit. The uniform hasn't changed yet. There was no C on the helmet, and there's a lot of reasons why there may not have been a C on that helmet. One of them you got to think about. You got to change out 120 decals every single week. You're traveling on a Thursday. You're getting a game time on a Sunday. We had that game time just scheduled for a 1:00 game. It went to a 7:00 game. We had to throw together a travel itinerary. So yeah, some of it has to do with maybe maybe some expense, maybe some cost of it. I may want to spend $3,000 or $4,000 someplace else in my budget. I may not want to overwork my overworked equipment staff some more. Maybe I really just want to focus on what really the important things are. And nobody asked me about the sticker on the back of the helmet for Rashad Graham, something that's extremely important to me. And those are things that I really want to focus on. Not so much what's on the side of the helmet, but what's underneath the helmet. Those kids, maybe I'm an anti-swag guy. There's a lot of different reasons there. But the main reason is that we are playing football, and really that shouldn't be of a huge concern to us.
Well, I was going to ask if there was something on the helmet for Rashad.
Yeah, on the back of the helmet, there's an RG back there with the FCS or the Fellowship of Christian Athletes back there. I thought that was important to get on the helmet for Rashad.
All right. Thanks, Brent.
Brent, what are the travel? Is anything adjusted with the travel plans to the close game? You're not going to drive up on Saturday morning. You're going to stay up over there on Friday night, or are you going up early Saturday for the game?
No, we will. It's a 4:00 game. That would be a lot of stress and pressure on us. We're going to go up the night before. We also have to have a test done on Friday, so we will go up to the hotel and we'll have a test done Friday afternoon when we arrive, and then we will do our typical Friday night meetings and get ready for the game, and we'll depart Saturday morning.
Brent, can you talk about the testing routine? It sounds like it's going pretty well. You have some, I'm not sure what kind of machines they are, but you can do rapid testing?
We can. I'm not so sure what the testing machines are. All I know is they stick something deep up into my head, and then about 45 minutes to an hour later, I kind of get all the results. About after 2 or 3 hours, we can get the whole team results. So far, everything has gone fairly well on that end. We tested yesterday after the game. On Sunday, we will test again on Wednesday, and then we will test again on Friday. We're very appreciative of the efforts of not only the school, but the testing agency that comes in and does it. So we're very fortunate, and I think our players are well taken care of.
Brent, do you have any kind of relationship with Dabo Sweeney? Is it just a cordial handshake and that's it, or is there or any type of relationship beyond that?
Well, I'll tell you this is, believe it or not, I probably got a better relationship with his brother Tracy, because he was the one that I had to go through when we were stranded up in Travelers Rest to get an indoor facility a couple of years ago. So Dabo and I know each other. We do the Fisher to Barely every year. It was done by Zoom this year, so I didn't get a chance to see him or chat with him or talk to him. I think the last time we did it, he and I may have sat next to each other up on stage. But besides that, maybe once or twice a year we'll run into each other. Very cordial. I wouldn't say that we would go out and hang out or anything, but certainly always been very pleasant with me.
Coach John Bear from WCBD. Do you believe that there's going to be a difference in the atmosphere in the locker room that you guys will have this week as opposed to what it was in the last week?
Well, being that you do have fans in the stands, that'll be a little bit different for us. Locker room, being that we have some guys from the area, I thought we were, I didn't think that there was a lack of excitement being that there was no fans in there. You're playing in an NFL stadium still last week, so I thought our guys were ready to play. We're excited to play out there. There may be a little bit extra more. They may know some more guys on the Clemson team. They may have been a fan in that stadium at some point, so I don't think it'll be anything noticeable, but our guys typically do get excited, and they do have a little bit more juice to them when they're playing Alabama, Georgia Tech, or Clemson.
Brent, is there any chance of Keontae coming back this week?
There's a very good chance we will look forward to having him back, getting him back in the A-back lineup. He's been with us for so long. There's a lot of things. He can even get the other guys coached up a little bit. When I'm busy doing something else, he can get back there and coach them during practice. He can tell them what to do out there. So he would be a great asset to be back out there. So I think you'll see him out there again this week. We just got to get him back conditioned and ready to go.
What did you think of Keith White's debut? I thought he did some good things.
Yeah, he had the one mishap in the one area. He just dropped one pitch that I thought we had a good opportunity to get at least close to the goal line or pretty close there. We had the blocking scheme in place. He may have just taken his eyes off. He may have gotten big-eyed right in there and saw what was going on in front of him, and he knew he had an opportunity to score, but unfortunately he just dropped it in there, but had a lot of good runs. I thought he ran tough, did some good things in the blocking schemes. I've got no worries about him going out there. I think he can do it, and he'll get better with the more opportunities that he has to do it.